And welcome to another episode of the Don't Argue with the Facts podcast. I'm your host, Noah Love, and today I will be giving you my college football playoff predictions and my conference champions for the 2026 college football season. It's right around the corner. There are games week 0 at the end of this month. Week 1 is obviously the week after in September, but the preseason coaches poll has already come out. We've already talked about that, but the AP poll comes out on August 17th, which is this upcoming Monday. So when that drops, I'll have a reaction on that. Uh so yeah, let's just get straight into these predictions because this is why I have. Let's go conference. Let's go conference by conference. Let's start with the ACC. The ACC. You look at Miami's schedule. I think they go to the conference championship game. I think at that point they're probably a one-loss team with the loss coming to Notre Dame. If you want to pick if there isn't if they do have two losses, it's one out of conference, one in conference. I believe they'll be right um in a winning in situation at the very least to get to the playoff. I believe they'll play SMU. SMU I think is the second best team in the ACC this upcoming year. I think there is a very good chance they play. My ACC champion is Miami. You look at Darian Minsa, Mark Fletcher, Malachi Tony. This team is loaded with talent on both sides of the football. I Now they haven't won an ACC title in like 25 years, which is crazy to me. I feel like this is the year to get it broken. I think they are going to be very mentally prepared. Like, look, we have big goals. We want to win the national championship, but winning the ACC championship is something that Cristobal has not done in his time there. I don't even think they've played in the game. So I think that will be a big, I guess you could say, step. But I do think they play in the game, and I think they beat Rhett Lashley and SMU, who at this point in the season I think will have probably three losses, and I think them losing would take them out of CFP contention. So yeah, I've got Miami in to win the ACC in the Big 12. I've got a rematch of 2 years ago. I've got a rematch. It's Texas Tech versus BYU. Um, I Texas Tech. I mean, they don't play themselves. They don't play themselves, so their schedule is pretty straightforward. They may walk in with a loss. There's a good chance they don't because they don't play BYU and they don't play Texas Tech or Texas Tech. Obviously, they don't play themselves. They don't play Utah, the Utes. BYU does play Utah. I think that on the road, I think that's a big game. I think that's a catalyst to win that game. And I think BYU has one loss and I think they win that game. I think you look at a lot of guys return from last year's squad and they were a young squad as well. I'm excited to see Bear Bachmeier's progression. I think it would have been so easy just to pick Texas Tech, but I do think not having Sorsby hurts because I do believe offensively, if they had source speed, this was a team primed, and they could still be. But I don't know how good Will Hammond. You saw him come in garbage time. You saw him play for one game, and in the one game against Arizona State, it wasn't great. They Texas, it wasn't great. It was okay. So I don't know how much production you're going to get from the quarterback position, which is huge, but I think they're good enough in this Big 12 to get back to the title game. I think you get a rematch, and I think Brigham Young does the thing. And I think we get a two-bid Big 12. I used a college football playoff simulator for this, so you get two Big 12 teams. Let's go now to the SEC. We've got Georgia in Texas. That's my SEC championship game. I think they meet for the second time in 3 years. The SEC is very crowded. I think Georgia, me picking them to get there, that's just a given. I think they'll get to Atlanta. I I just trust them. But with I was really because Texas has a tough schedule. Texas could very well walk into that game with two or three losses. But I would say two. They'll walk in there with two. They could lose to Ohio State, and then they could lose one of those conference games, whether it's to Ole Miss at home, whether it's to Oklahoma in Red River. They've got Tennessee on the road, which is very sneaky. That's very sneaky. They have to go to Death Valley. I think they also have to go to College Station. The point is, I don't believe Texas is getting out of that alive, and they probably have two losses. Um, and I also think, I also think that there are a couple more teams that I think could get to Atlanta, like an Ole Miss, even though they have a tough schedule. Oklahoma, his schedule isn't bad. Uh, who else? I think LSU's got a very good schedule too. They get a majority. They have to go to Ole Miss, but they get Alabama at home. They get Texas at home. They get Clemson at home. They've got. I believe they also get A&M at home. So yeah, they do have to go on the road to Tennessee, but it favorable. But I think it's Georgia and Texas, and I'm picking Georgia because I got to see Texas go do it. If I'm gonna be wrong on the SEC winner, it's going because Texas did something that they have not done, and that's beat Georgia. They've played three times. Georgia's beat them all three times. So if I'm going to be wrong, it's going to be wrong off of that. And I think maybe they walk into the playoff as a three-loss team. Maybe maybe it's one or two losses, but yeah, I do truly believe Texas. In this scenario, I'm going to say it's their third loss on the season potentially. That I'll go with that. Actually, mm, yeah, yeah, I'll see. Yeah, I'll stick with that. We'll see. Then, then let's now get to the Big Ten title prediction. I believe it will be Indiana versus Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. No Ohio State. I don't know how the tiebreakers work. I think the top three will at least have one loss in the Big Ten conference. I think all three will have at least a loss. I think Indiana, I think they probably I don't I don't know if they go undefeated in the regular season again. I just think that's so tough to do. I think they probably get clipped up once they've got Nebraska on the road. They've got they've got obviously Ohio State at home. They've got USC at home. They've got Michigan on the road. Uh Doable schedule, right? But I think they probably get clipped up. I think it's in the Big Ten. It's so hard to win from a week to week basis, and like there's a part of their schedule where like it's Nebraska, Ohio State, then it's I think at Michigan. Yeah, at Michigan is after the Ohio State game, and then they've got another, and then they've got Minnesota, and then a bye, then it's USC. So yeah, they probably get clipped up there, but I do believe they're in a Big Ten title game. Oregon probably loses on the road to Ohio State. I don't know. I think Ohio State loses on the road to Indiana, so I don't know what the tiebreaker will be. I'm just gonna go Indiana, Oregon, and I'm gonna go the last two Big Ten title winners. Who wins this game? I go Indiana. Shocker to win the Big Ten. To win the Big Ten, I think Signetti in his encore act goes back to back in terms of Big Ten titles. I think he shows the world that it wasn't just Mendoza, because I've been hearing that sentiment. Oh, it was all Mendoza. Mendoza was great, but stop it. Signetti's a terrific coach, and he has a terrific coaching staff, and I think that talent that he has with transferring in, you got Nick Marsh, you got Shaz Preston in the receiving core, obviously Charlie Becker in the back. And running back, I think Kobe Martin is going to be a stud. Obviously, you bring in Josh Hoover. Your offensive line very solid. You return a huge anchor, All American Carter Smith. How about on the defense? Now that Kellen Wyatt and Stephen Daly are back, you still have Tyreek Tucker and Mario Landino. So you've almost got with the Notre Dame transfer at defensive end. So that defensive line group, I mean, that's almost the same group from last year. And then you have Elijah Hardy who comes back. So does Isaiah Jones, who's going to be taking over Aiden Fisher's role, I think, so as the leader. In the back end, you have a transfer like AJ Harris. You've still got Jamari Sharp. I think Indiana has enough to where they can go back to back, and I think Oregon probably this is where they get their second one. And so this is where I have my playoff rankings. I think the one seed is Georgia. I think with them being more than likely 12-1, them or Indiana at 1 or 2. If you think Indiana's going to be the one seed again, I think I think that's fair. I think Georgia's 1, Indiana 2. I think the committee just does it like that. At 3, I think because Miami will only have one loss, I think Miami's 3. I think Miami's 3. 4, I think because Oregon, depending on they lost to Ohio State and Indiana, and depending on those two law how those two losses went, I think Oregon still gets a first round bye. I think Ohio State probably was one loss. They'll be the 5. I think because Oregon went to the Big Ten championship game. I mean, look, maybe you could swap them, but I think Ohio State is the 5. It will be the 5. Now they could have 2 losses because they could lose to Texas, but I think they will probably be playing a first round home game, and have that extra tune up, which in this means you would get more than likely an Oregon Ohio State rematch. But let's move down the list. At six, I've at six because they won the Big 12. I've got, or excuse me, at six I've got Texas. At seven I have BYU winning the Big 12. At eight I have Notre Dame. Context to that, I believe Notre Dame has one loss on the season. I believe BYU going on the road to BYU is that loss. I believe it's just tough. BYU is a very good team on the road. Provo, time zone differences. It's something Freeman hasn't really seen before. It's one of those weird matchups because they don't have USC on the schedule. I think BYU could get them. So that would be my thing. So Notre Dame's at eight. I've got Ole Miss as one of my other playoff teams at nine. I've got LSU at 10. I've got Texas Tech at 11. And I've got Boise State at 12. That is my playoff field, which means in the 5-12 game, you get Ohio State and Boise because you have to choose a G5. And I mean, I don't, Tulane, to me, it was between Boise, Tulane, UNLV. I just chose Boise. In the 6-11 game, you have Texas versus Texas Tech in Austin. Joey McGuire, Steve Sarkisian. Battle of Texas. Woo! That would be an incredible playoff matchup. In the 7-10, you get the battle of cultures. You have LSU and Lane Kiffin in their first year, potentially, in my prediction, going on the road to Provo, Utah, and BYU hosting a playoff game after winning the Big 12. And then in the 8-9, you've got Notre Dame hosting Ole Miss. Ole Miss going down to South Bend, Indiana. Right, to phase Notre Dame. I think those are your play. I think those are the 12 I've picked to be the playoff team. Honorable mentions, Oklahoma. Like there's obviously USC, Oklahoma. I think there's a couple 9-3 team on the predictor I use. There were 9-3 teams that I think in real life had a case, like in Oklahoma, like USC, like in Alabama, but I I just don't see him getting in. I don't know if there's gonna be a path for them. So yeah, those are my 12 teams. And those are my predictions. Version 1. We'll see around mid-season how these are holding up. I expect a majority of these. I obviously you expect now a majority of these to hold up. But to me, the one real chaos is in the ACC. I picked Miami to win the conference, but if Miami doesn't win it, I've got no clue who's winning that conference. Just don't know. In other news, shifting to the NFL. Obviously, the NFL preseason starts this week. There was some big news coming out of Minnesota. Kyler Murray has been named the quarterback one for the season. I don't unless JJ McCarthy was just horrid in camp. I said Kyler should be the QB1 and I said Kyler should win the job. I didn't expect him to get it this quickly. Because if it's a QB competition, wouldn't it usually goes okay? They go in, you obviously have training camp. You've got two preseason game. Well, there's three preseason games, but they usually name a star. Teams usually name a starter before that last preseason game. Like last year with the Colts and Richardson and Jones. Jones, who I believe was named the starter before that last preseason game they played against the Bengals. Yeah, yeah. So Kyler Murray is named the quarterback one. I had no problem with that. As you guys know, I said, look, he's probably going to win the job, and in this offense, I believe he can really play well and and them be dangerous. I think the key to me to unlocking Minnesota this season, they gotta be able to run the ball. They gotta be able to run the ball. Last year they were kind of on and off struggling running the ball. I think that's gonna be a key. Gotta be able to run the ball. Obviously, quarterback play. Kevin O'Connell in that front office felt like, look, we were 9-8 with Max Brosmer and JJ McCarthy being awful for basically the entire year. And I know Wentz played a couple games in there where but he wasn't that good for him too. And he went 9-8. We get a quarterback that gives us a high level of play, a high level of play. We're gonna be a playoff team. Now, obviously, I did not pick them to go to the playoffs, which it was really hard in terms of the NFC North. But I do believe this team has a real shot to go to the playoff and win their division. What's so I do believe that is a real possibility with Kyler Murray as QB1. I think that whole NFC North, I look at it, there there are questions, and I think it's going to be the most competitive division from top to bottom. I mean, if you look at last year, yes, the Bears won it, I think at 11-6, but I believe what the Packers may have were 9-7-1. The Lions were 9-8, so they had a winning record. And then the Vikings were 9-8. So every team in that division had a winning record. And those games were just incredible football games because those are incredibly talented, incredibly well coached teams. Again, in this NFC North, especially when you have the games early. I think Minnesota opens up with two division games early. I think they play the Packers and they play the Bears. They have they have to win those games because you can't fall behind the 8 ball. You at least gotta win one. So yeah, Kyler Murray being named quarterback one, I don't think is a shocker to any. Okay, now let's get into this Anthony Richardson conversation. There have been reports that he had been demoted to quarterback three. There have been reports he's been up and down in camp. There have been reports that he's a cut candidate. He he will be starting the first half of the preseason game against the New England Patriots. Riley Leonard will get the second half. Daniel Jones will not play in preseason. I kind of figured that, but there's a QB2 battle going on there. Um here's the thing about this. I do think Riley Leonard's going to be QB2. I do not think they should cut Anthony Richardson because after the way last season went, and mainly with your quarterback getting hurt, you have and Riley, I think, kind of got nicked up too. You have to carry all three. You need three quarterbacks. I'm sorry. After last season, go. Maybe this is just me, but I'm carrying three quarterbacks. I'm not gonna put myself in a situation where I'm ever going to have to call Philip Rivers or do something similar to that. Again, I'm just not putting myself in that situation. Now they did carry three quarterbacks last year, but that QB room was so injured. Obviously, breaks his fibula, then tears his Achilles. AR gets injured with an elastic band. Um, and then uh Riley had a knee injury, I guess. So yeah, I I would keep three quarterbacks. I think Riley probably, if the report, and look, I don't know what's true or not, but if the reports are true that Riley's playing, having a decent camp, being more consistent, and Anthony's been up and down, which has been the story of his career. I, if I'm hearing accuracy issues, still, it's year four. It's year four. If it's the same issues, that means you haven't gotten any better. In fourth year of this, we knew what the issues were coming in. It's the same issues as year one. I want to see him go out there and have consistency. That's what I need. I If he can go out there and do that, I will be happy. But it doesn't sound like he's going to. It sounds like Riley Leonard's got a lead there. I I guess. Also, speaking of the Colts, I don't want to get too mad. Alec Pierce, Chris Ballard says he also had his surgery for his ankle and and his heel his heel. So let me get this straight. You again withhold injury information from the media and the fans. Again. So it's not just his ankle, it's his heel now. Wow. Wow. Just wow. Again, withholding important information. Okay. So I've seen this movie before. I don't know if Alec Pierce is going to be ready for week 1. I don't know. I don't I'm preparing for the worst. So we know this, right? And I know Downs had a groin too, but I think he'll be fine, ready to go. Keenan Allen's right there. Sign him. Sign him. It's it's not a long term. I said it's a quick fix, not a long term solution. Keenan Allen's right there. There are areas of this team. You need Daniel Jones to have as many weapons as possible. You have to prepare. If Alec Pierce can't go, okay, we're gonna sign Keenan Allen. If you sign Keenan Allen in now, he comes in, he can study the playbook, whatever the case may be. And even if Pierce is ready, Keenan Allen played very well for the Chargers last season. He's another threat, along with Downs, along with Pierce, along with Warren. Yeah, JT in the backfield. And it also gives you extra depth. But no, Chris Ballard won't do that. He will sit on his hands and he will wait until we absolutely have no choice to sign a receiver. And it'll be like week 4 and they're 1-2. Or it'll be week 6 and they're 2-3, and if they and their season's on the line already. He will sit on his hands and wait. If Chris really wants to win, he shouldn't be sitting on his hands and waiting on this. He should be being proactive and actively in calls with Keenan Allen. Or make a trade. Keon Coleman's like wide receiver 5. Bring him in. Maybe they need some. Maybe he needs a rejuvenation. I'm saying just do something to help the receiver room because you are thin. Westbrook Akine, decent player. I don't. He can't be your other outside wide receiver, right? And then Downs is going to move from slot to outside. I guess Gould will be your slot receiver if that were to occur. Here's the issue. I don't production. I haven't seen a lot of production. Maybe he's great in slot at in slot. I don't know. But I just my head. I'm not gonna get started. I'm not. But the point is the Colts need some depth there. Uh but yeah, that's basically been all the news. The preseason starts on Thursday. Uh I'll be interested to see some of these teams play. Will they play their key guys? Will they not? In the in the first preseason game, I don't expect them to, but in the second game, I expect to see things ramp up. All right, everybody. This has been an episode of the Don't Argue with the Facts podcast. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until the next time, I will see you.